This program is proudly brought to you by Daytech PNG Limited and Telecom Limited.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Malcolm Waira, and welcome to this one-hour special edition of Infocus. Tonight, we hold discussions with Kumul Petroleum about its interventions and support in assisting the government overcome some of its development challenges, such as health, education, and rural electrification. Joining us for discussions, we have Mr. Luke Liria, Executive General Manager, External Affairs. Mr. Liria, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Firstly, can you give us a brief background about Kumul Petroleum?
Kumul Petroleum is the state oil company of Papua New Guinea. What that means is as a national oil company, we represent the people of Papua New Guinea and the government in all the petroleum activity in the country. That's production, exploration, pipeline, all the project work that's going on. We sit across the table, and we, by Kumul Act 2015, we are empowered to represent the people of Papua New Guinea. So Kumul Petroleum basically focuses on the petroleum industry and energy, power generation. That's where we represent the nation. We represent the people and the state.
I understand you have various initiatives that you implement in terms of your community engagement. Can you highlight for us those specific interventions?
Kumul Petroleum's activities is aligned with the government's Vision 2050. And we promote, through the work that we do, we promote government's strategic development plans 2010 to 2030. So a lot of the community engagement work that we do, we focus in three key areas: rural electrification, education, and major health intervention programs. And this program is close to the hearts of a lot of Papua New Guineans, and also with the state oil company, and we work closely with the National Health Department and the selected hospitals in the health intervention programs.
In terms of health, you recently signed a tripartite agreement with the National Department of Health, as you mentioned, as well as the Port Moresby General Hospital. What does this agreement entail?
In Port Moresby General Hospital, at the back of our studies showed that the lifestyle in the country has changed, and that has resulted in coronary heart disease, and the number of people that were losing their life in this area has increased because of the lifestyle disease. So internally, management looked into this area, and the board approved this program. We then took it to the government. Government, through the annual operating plan, they approved for us to enter into a three-way agreement with the National Health Department, Port Moresby General Hospital, and Kumul. We signed a 50 million kina 5-year fit-out agreement with the National Health Department, Port Moresby General Hospital. Under this 50 million, we equip the cardiac unit at Port Moresby General Hospital with specialist equipment such as cardiologists. We've recruited cath lab nurses that will work around at cardiac center in Port Moresby. So part of that budget, we've upgraded the facility over there. We've upgraded the equipment from cath lab equipment to heart lung equipment to treadmills. We've fitted out the whole cardiac unit over there. We purchased echo angiograms. We purchased echocardiograms, heart lung machine, treadmills, and a specialist that will work and man that area. So that 50 million is still a work in progress because it's a 5-year agreement with the National Health Department, the Port Moresby General Hospital, and ourselves. Also, the funding is earmarked. We've said that each year we'll spend this kind of money, and the agreement ties what we'll do every year in that agreement, in upgrading the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Liria. We now go for a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussions. Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. Now, Mr. Liria, I understand through the agreement you have with the Department of Health and the Port Moresby General Hospital, you've established a National Heart Center. How has that improved Port Moresby General Hospital's ability to assist patients with heart condition?
Initially, we didn't have these services in here, but now Papua New Guineans are benefiting from the services. Not only Papua New Guineans, our visitors and people, foreigners that are working in here are able to benefit from this service that we provide here. Without this proper cardiac facility, to send people overseas, you can look at anything from 200,000 to 300,000 or more. Depends on the complexity of and those that can afford this amount and those that cannot afford this amount don't have to go looking or raising funds elsewhere. They should be able to get the service out of the facility that we have here. The National Heart Center, through the 50 million, is now fully equipped to give the treatment instead of people looking for the cardiac services or overseas. Since coming on operation, we've seen over 300 outpatients at the cardiac center. That's a lot of number that has already gone through. And we've seen 700 patients utilize the cath lab. This statistics is from September of 2022. So it's almost a year later. So the statistics is more and more Papua New Guineans and foreigners living in this country getting access to some of these services. We've done 300, Port Moresby General Hospital Cardiac Center has done 300 stenting. The simple stenting, which is single stenting. They can put the stent equipment through the nerve in the hand or through the groin. And they can go in and close open up the heart where it's struggling, the artery. Or they've done other 200 was complex, which is more than one stenting. And then they've also done 5 cases of congenital heart issue, which is a defect. So if you look at it, without the cardiac 50 million kina investment by the Kumul Petroleum and the government of Papua New Guinea into the Port Moresby General Hospital, National Heart Center, all this could have been done outside. And to go outside, that's a substantial amount of money, huge. And a lot cannot afford this kind of money. So we are now having this service available right here at our own Port Moresby General Hospital. And here's the thing. It's done by our own doctors now. Our own doctors are able to do these critical procedures. So over the last 30 years, a lot of Papua New Guineans may have heard about the Operation Open Heart. These are the group that came and helped the cardiac facility do these complex operations. But now, with the 50 million kina investment, our own doctors are able to do these complex procedures. Our doctors are equally qualified. They are trained in top universities all over the world. They compete with the top universities. They come here, and they are ready to serve the country. But they need proper equipment. They need support team. They need accessories. They need facility. Without these things, they might know a lot, but they are not empowered to deliver the service at the level where they should. Now, with Kumul Petroleum, the government approving for Kumul Petroleum to invest 50 million in upgrading the cardiac facility, our own doctors have been able to complete these critical procedures.
Another major health challenge in the country is cancer. It's the 4th largest cause of death in PNG. In what capacity is the Kumul Petroleum providing support in the health sector that are tailored specifically for patients with cancer?
Again, Kumul did its own study. When we came in as a national oil company, the management and the boards looked at what area to do our community engagement work, and cancer came up top, and we did our own study. Out of that study, we found out that cancer was one of the biggest killers in the country. In fact, it's a hidden killer in this country. And based on that study, we got into agreement with the National Health Department and initially with Morobe Provincial, what used to be National Angao Hospital. There's a cancer unit there. We got into an agreement to fit out the cancer facility in Angao. That agreement is now, under that agreement, we brought in medical physicists, medical oncologists, biomed engineers, biomed technicians to fix we have the Cobalt 60 unit in there already, but it's been damaged and it was not functional. So radiation treatment is not available in Papua New Guinea. Kumul's 15 million is earmarked to fix the radiation equipment and make the radiation treatment available. To be able to do that, we brought in a medical oncologist and on short term flew in the engineers to help fix the equipment. And we do it in coordination with the Morobe Provincial Health Authority and the National Health Department. They are the mandated authorities that work on this service. So Kumul Petroleum piggybacks and work with them as a funding agency to make sure this equipment is delivered, fixed and ready, so that fixing the equipment is not enough. We have to get approval from the International Atomic Energy Agency. These are the people, the group in the world that controls the release of these atomic isotopes, the source that has to go inside this equipment. We fixed the Cobalt 60 unit, but the health department will not certify the existing source because it's weak. And they're the authority. We have to listen to them and work with them. They want new source. So Kumul's helped the health department subscribe the nation to International Atomic Energy Agency. We paid the fees and allowed them to assess and help us to bring the radiation into the country. Once the radiation comes in, cancer is a very complicated, it's a highly technical area, and you need chemo, you need surgery, and you need radiation. Radiation is not available in the country. We don't have radiation. So under this funding, with everything going well, in August, just last month, Kumul released the payment for the source. The manufacturers are now manufacturing this source, and we are told that we should make radiation available in the country for the people of Papua New Guinea by end of this year, or if not, January of next year. The radiation source will be available. And brachytherapy, which is for the women, which Kumul's also funded, procured the equipment, will be available March of next year. So we are working with the relevant state agency, which is the National Health Department, and the relevant Provincial Health Authority, which is Morobe Provincial Health Authority. We are working with them to make sure this critical treatment and the Cobalt 60 unit is operational by end of this year.
Kumul Petroleum has also committed 1 million kina to the establishment of a kidney dialysis center in Mendi, Southern Highlands. Can you give us an update on this intervention by Kumul Petroleum?
We made the commitment in 2020, and in April of this year, we officially launched the dialysis center. According to the health department, there's only one dialysis center here in Port Moresby, and this is the second one in the country and the first in the Highlands. And today I'm happy to say that this is another service that is needed by the people of this country. According to the report that we've received from the Southern Highlands Provincial Health Authority, people from right across the Highlands are accessing that treatment. And all 3 units are fully occupied. People are going in, out, get the treatment, they go out. And so it's heavily used now, and people are benefiting from it. And the recent report is that people from Port Moresby have also gone up to get the access to the service down there. And it's got proper water treatment and for this service in Southern Islands. And we, as part of that sponsor, we help train some of the resources here in Port Moresby, so they will man the dialysis center in the Southern Islands province. And it's benefiting the country, it's benefiting the people. And that's what the country needs. That's what the 10 million people in this country need. So when the government of the day approves our annual operating plan and our social engagement programs, Kumul is happy to, our vision is to use the health, use the petroleum resources, the value that we create out of the oil and gas industry, use that to create value and opportunity for Papua New Guineans and empower Papua New Guineans. And this is one area that we see that it is already benefiting Papua New Guineans.
Are there other support or interventions that Kumul Petroleum provides to other hospitals around Papua New Guinea?
We've worked with other smaller clinics. We help out in delivering ambulances as and when the budget is available. But the 2 main ones that come to my mind is the Kiunga Hospital. We've helped purchase equipment at a cost of $500,000 for the Kiunga Hospital. We've also worked with Nonga Base Hospital. In fact, we've fully kitted their emergency department. And not long ago, I think 4 weeks ago, we got a report from the emergency department doctor. And that is also very beneficial to the people that are living in that region. Emergency department sees people that come under stress. So having the equipment, state-of-the-art equipment there, helps the doctor move the patient quickly to either to ICU or the relevant doctor that will see this patient quickly. And having that critical emergency department equipped with the state-of-the-art facility helps the doctor. We can have all the highly trained doctors in each of the hospitals, but without this modern equipment, modern support system around them, it impacts the service delivery. So they've been, the report that we got from the Nonga Base Hospital, they're very pleased, and it's very helpful to them and the people that are living in that region.
Thank you, Mr. Liria. We now go for a quick break. When we return, we look at Kumul Petroleum support in skills development and education in Papua New Guinea. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus. Now, Mr. Liria, skills training is a very critical element for companies as well as the economy as a whole, for its workers that will be engaged in petroleum projects, but also the broader industry itself. How are you going about developing qualified and skilled technicians for your organization and the country as a whole?
Since coming on board 10 years ago, we've started on a program, graduate development program. So we don't just necessarily work on the graduate development program. This group of people, we bring them in, we train them, we take them out to other overseas training, expose them in the industry. But we also sponsor students in universities as well. So we want to make sure the country has a pipeline of the next layer generation of people coming through. Now, with our own graduate development program, this is a highly technical field. It's got technical, commercial, legal work that is, we're partnering with some of the big players in the world, and the knowledge level and the skill level that's required is huge. So to prepare for that, Kumul Petroleum's taken a graduate development program over the years, and we train our own engineers, own economists, own lawyers, commercial people, accountants, and bring them on board, train them, and prepare them. And this year, we brought in 11 students. These 11 students, we have to train them and front load them. So when Kumul goes into some of the, initially in my conversation, I said we represent Papua New Guineans in some of the oil field negotiations. Now, you need trained people to sit across the table with the international oil companies and financiers and people that work with. We need knowledgeable people representing Papua New Guineans over the table and sitting down and representing them properly with knowledge and skill. So with the projects that are coming on board, we are taking, in fact, the top graduates in some of the universities want to join the national company. They want to work for Papua New Guineans. They want to work for their own national oil company. So we've attracted some of the best to come and work for us. And this year, we brought in 11 graduates to join us. As part of that graduate program, we put them through a training program so these graduates acquire knowledge and they develop themselves and they equip themselves on the operations of the oil and gas industry. Not just the oil and gas, the regulatory function, financing function, and the technical work that is required to be able to represent the people of Papua New Guinea in developing our massive oil and gas resource in the country. And we also present opportunity for the graduates that are coming in. We allow them to go and do advanced studies and get technically very astute and competent and develop their skills as well. So our program involves graduates that come through, we build them in-house, and then we expose them to work that is happening in the projects that are happening both internally representing their company in the oil and gas industry. At the same time, the graduates come with aspirations. They want to develop and get better. And I'm sitting here talking after 30 years being in the oil and gas industry. These graduates, we are front-loading them, so when their time comes, they are fully developed to represent the people of Papua New Guinea, serve not the oil industry only, but also serve the community, serve the country. And we want trained people to man this oil and gas and carry this oil and gas industry forward. So we are developing the next generation for the people of Papua New Guinea, for the oil industry. So we are fairly represented when we develop our massive oil and gas resources.
I understand Kumul Petroleum was principally involved in the establishment of the Kumul Petroleum Academy. Can you briefly give us a background of the academy?
Okay, when we found out that in the first PNG LNG project, we did not front load and prepare Papua New Guineans to get the opportunity to be employed and skilled properly to meet the oil and gas industry job requirements. While we want employment, some of the plans like the PNG LNG project not far from Port Moresby, or Kutubu project, or Heights project, these plants have some of the state-of-the-art facility, very costly equipment running. Now, people that go and work in there has to meet a certain qualification requirement, certain skill requirement to be able to work in that very high risk and costly area. When we discovered that in the first LNG construction, we didn't front load a lot of Papua New Guineans, we said, okay, we will set up a technical training facility and start front loading now, start developing Papua New Guineans. Some of these kids coming through this, intellectually their skill goes through the roof. So Kumul has cast a net a bit wider. We have very limited space in universities. So what we've done is based on the experience from PNG LNG project. Now we got Papua coming, we got Piniang coming, we got Tuensia that's in discussion, and we got a lot of other power generation projects that are coming. Okay, what we've said is we'll front load and take action in this area, train a lot more Papua New Guineans. So when these projects come on board, on stream, Papua New Guineans are trained properly, they meet the industry requirement, and they are employable, so they can get employed. They should be employed. So we are now preparing them for the next batch of job opportunities that will come when the next projects come on stream.
I understand the facilities are of world-class standard. It includes a safe and live processing plant and its associated control room. How important is it to have such realistic simulating plants for the training of your technical staff?
Again, in the oil and gas industry, you live and breathe by safety culture. The people's life that work in your next colleagues' behavior is important, and the safety behavior is instituted at a training facility. The Safe Life plant is a miniature version of what you see in Kutubu, in Heights, and over at Papa Lealea, not far from Port Moresby. It's a processing plant. It's where the electricians, mechanical, electrical, instrumentation trainees are trained. And they go through the safety procedure. They go through shutdown procedure. They go through job hazard analysis procedure, shutdown planning, confined workspace, height, the reporting, handover, documentation. They go through and they do the simulation. This is a live plant, except that it doesn't produce the actual gas and oil. But otherwise, everything, the system, the control mechanism, the procedures, documentation, safety procedure, we work with the industry to make sure when these students are trained, they walk into the actual production facility, it's like for like. They are not confused. The language is the same, safety language is the same. So when they go into the production facility, they observe the safety culture, and they basically move into a production facility and operate safely.
Thank you, Mr. Liria. We now go for a quick break. We continue our discussions when we return. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus. Now, Mr. Liria, what sort of partnerships do you have with other universities in the country, both state and private, to ensure that you improve training and technical capacities of workers in the industry?
At the moment, one of the major programs that Kumul's been working with since 2015 is the Washington Accord. That's the accreditation program. We are in the industry and we see the quality of the students that are coming and the gap that exists. So Kumul and few industry players came in and we are working with Papua New Guinea University of Technology. Since 2015, we've been working on the accreditation program to make sure the engineering program in Unitech meets the Washington standard. What that means is our graduates, once we go through this process, will meet the US, Australia, UK engineering standard. Our students, our graduates will be in par with the foreign graduates that come out of Australian universities and elsewhere. So the reason being, industry needs people at the international level now. Some of the investment that happens here, we're playing with the big international majors, and the operations here is quite complex. And to meet the demand, we are now going to the university and we are working with them. And when this opens up, what will happen is it will open the market for Papua New Guineans abroad. All of a sudden, accredited engineering graduates will be in par with graduates from Australia, New Zealand, elsewhere. And it gives an opportunity for Papua New Guineans to go abroad and work abroad as well. But in country, our graduates are also employable. Kumul is actually leading the funding, and Kumul representative at Industrial Advisory Board is actually chairing the board of the university accreditation program.
Okay. Can you give us a perspective on the composition of the applicants to your graduate development program as well as your other technical skills training program?
Our program does not, we recruit based on merit. We want the best students. We want the best students to come. We don't ask further questions outside of that. We look at the applicants, we look at the merit of the candidates, and we want to attract the best student to come and join us. That's in our graduate development program. At the Kumul Petroleum Academy, same rule applies. We recruit the students based on merit, based on of the 174 that have come through the system. Our academy, for instance, 60 to 70% are now employed by Exxon, and they are paying tax to the country. They're already paying tax to the country. And we don't ask who we should recruit. We look at the quality of the academic result that comes through, the references that come through, and we want to attract the best people for the industry to come and join both Kumul, our subsidiaries, and also we want to process the best students through the Kumul Petroleum Academy.
Thank you, Mr. Liria. We now go for a quick break. When we return, we look at Kumul Petroleum's intervention in rural electrification. Welcome back to Infocus. Now, Mr. Liria, given that the majority of Papua New Guineans, especially from the rural areas, lack access to electricity, in what capacity is Kumul Petroleum Holdings supporting the government's ambition to achieve the goal of 70% of our population having access to electricity by 2030?
Again, this fits right into the Kumul's vision and mission, where we want to use the oil and gas resource value to create value for Papua New Guineans, create opportunity for Papua New Guineans, and empower Papua New Guineans. And rural electrification comes right into that. And the government's agenda, our mission, vision aligns. So to help push the government agenda on reaching 70% of the population by 2030, so far we've invested 100 million to do low voltage distribution lines in two of the LNG footprint projects, Southern Islands and Hela. And since 2019 to 2020, we've covered 230 kilometers. This electrification project reaches schools, hospitals, state agencies, and we've covered a lot of the provinces in the two LNG provinces, and we're working elsewhere, like Jiwaka, Chimbu, Goroka, Wau, Bulolo area. And this is, again, subject to funding. Every year we go with our annual operating plan to the government and say, okay, these segments are online now. Can you approve this funding so we can go and work with PNG Power and continue to push this rural electrification agenda and help the government meet its development target? When they approve that, we roll out the power across the provinces. So far, since 2019, we've delivered Yalibu to Cargo Station. Cargo Station to Erave is in progress. It's under construction. We've delivered Magarima to Tari Town. We've completed the installation and construction of the distribution line. Halibu to Koromba Station. Alibu to Nogoli Station. So Nogoli Gas Plant. So these are the LNG heartland. So we're running the power into, and we are giving service back to the people of the LNG footprint area. But at the same time, we are pushing the government's development agenda. The state wants to reach 70% by 2030. So Kumul's aligned, our mission aligns with the government one. So when the budget is available, we work to construct the distribution lines.
Recently, Kumul Petroleum has signed a MOU with the Ministry for International Trade and Investment. This is to provide power solutions to the special economic zones that is going to be established around the country. Can you tell us a little about this?
The MOU was signed primarily to provide power in the special economic zones. And energy supply is critical for all the earmarked SE jets. It's almost a catalyst. Without reliable and stable power supply, the SE jets that have been earmarked cannot take off. This is the foundational thing that needs to go into the SE jets. So Kumul Petroleum, we are playing in the oil and gas industry. We have access to DMO. We have our own gas fields. We are ready to, and we are committed to help government promote the SE jets and develop the SE jets and industrialize the areas that the SE jets have been earmarked. And power is the foundational stuff that will make the SE jets work.
Thank you, Mr. Liria. We now go for a quick break. Join us on the other side for more discussions. Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. Now, Mr. Liria, we've just recently hosted the Petroleum and Energy Conference a few days ago. Can you give us a brief background and the objectives of the conference itself?
The summit that we are running is important to the country. The oil industry, what is happening in the oil industry, as the state oil company that works and represents the people of Papua New Guinea in the industry, needs to host this. So the aim of this summit is to bring the state together, businesses together, industry players like the international oil companies together, our financing agents together, and people that buy our cargo in the region. They will come and listen to us as well and look at what is happening in the oil and gas industry now. And then the land core, the government, what is happening out in the oil industry, how is the market going, which area is it trending. As a oil and gas company of the people of this country, we have a responsibility to host this, work closely with the Department of Petroleum and Energy, Minister for Petroleum and Energy, bring everyone together and continue to update our stakeholder on what is happening in industry. The projects that are, people hear about Papua LNG, people hear about Pinyang, people hear about Twinja. People want to know what's happening. The businesses want to know, the stakeholder wants to know, the land core wants to know. So as a oil company, which my boss, Wapu Song, is leading, he was one of the speakers at that event. We bring the players together and create this venue for all the players to come together and provide an update to the stakeholder.
Finally, are there any concluding remarks you'd like to make?
I think the Kumul Petroleum, as a state oil company, with the value that comes out of the oil and gas industry, we one of the key areas we are working on is health and the cancer. We think we will make the service available in end of this year. Cardiac is already available. 50 years on, we have this service available. And from the oil resources, if we can use the oil resource to add value to the people of Papua, take action, work closely with the relevant state agencies, and with approval from the government, we are very pleased to see, dialysis giving service to our own people, cardiac giving service to our own people, Kumul Petroleum Academy training a lot of people, already paying tax to the country. We are about to accredit the university engineering program. Kumul Petroleum is very happy to work on key government agenda. Rural electrification is another one. Kumul Petroleum is pleased to work in the areas that is benefiting Papua New Guineans.
Mr. Liria, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, viewers, that's all the time we have for this edition of InFocus. On behalf of the entire InFocus team, thank you for joining us. And do join us again next week Monday for another episode of InFocus. Until then, good night.
This program was proudly brought to you by Daytech PNG Limited and Telecom Limited.